Bibilisan na lang din namin.
You can already share.
Opo. Ano? Wait lang, sir.
Okay.
Wait lang, sir.
So, is there going
na
to
ba?
play in each color?
Sir?
Are you going to?
Hindi na, kaya mas mabilis presentation namin, sir.
Sige. It's okay.
Sige, sir. So, ayun, sir. Good day, sir. So, ayun nga. This is our master plan. So, the new things that we added for this plan, sir, are the plans for the golf course area, and also we hide na din the road, but we didn't make it like parang underground, but we lowered the road down and we created an envelope, sir, that people could cross going to Intramuros Wall to our site. And we also added water features in the envelope, and the rest of the plan are still the same from last week. Jerry.
Uh, so so as you can see here, sir, we created this envelope to first connect the both sides, and also we didn't make the roads underground to somehow make the car users then parang curious about the site, but also to balance out the users of the site. Um, we also added yung water features dito sa envelope. Um, on so first is because yung kay Burnham, and second is to reduce yung the heat from the road using the water feature. So the water feature that we want to put is yung parang waterfall siya. Pero as you can see on the top ng envelope, we wanted to create yung parang river type pond. Pero shallow lang siya. And the water will be going down sa yung top pond into the golf course. So to create yung parang waterfall. So instead of water fountain, why not parang make it iba naman? So in the golf course area naman, sir, there are sa current golf course, there are mga small ponds there. So what we did is we make it bigger dun sa golf course area. At first kasi nung nakita namin yung golf course is ang unang napasok sa isip namin is mainit siya kasi it's totally open area na puro green lang, yung grass lang, parang ganon. So ang inaisip namin is yung heat. Kaya even though na parang ginawa namin siyang open, hindi siya golf course, parang mafe-feel namin na ma-avoid din yung mga users kasi yung nga mainit. So we make it more water, so more friendly
Very
dito sa golf course.
Go. Next.
And also, we created a pedestrian. So yung mga itong strip, we created a pedestrian bridge from the envelope going to the Intramuros wall. And we imagine that parang the people are walking on the top of the tree, which is yung mga ito. So basically what we did in the golf course is we made it more usable for the people and also lessen yung heat. Okay. Go, Mac.
So, and for this part naman, sir, we didn't change that much. So basically, the huge building here are civic building. So, nandyan sila, sir, because we want to create business from them because it's one of, yun nga, Burnham's principle where civic buildings are placed in a good location and are highlighted, sir. Pero in this area naman, sir, wala kami masyadong binago. So, ayun, sir.
Okay na.
Apa.
Okay, can you zoom out? I want to see the first slide. Do you have a
Plan.
3D massing of the entire area?
Pwede kang mag-open na Rai, no?
So how's the efficiency ratio?
Um,
Sir, upon yung parang chinek namin, dun sa dun sa side ng mga other side, yung hindi dito sa intramural side, parang um, okay naman siya. Pero
pwede mo share
di
screen
pa
para
namin sure if
makita.
idadagdag pa ba namin yung open spaces.
No, we already discussed
In,
it before. You are going to exclude the post office area. So that means the golf course is not included.
Yes, sir.
yes sir, yung golf course hindi siya included sir.
Pero, like, mukhang pasok naman siya, sir.
No, you need to
Balik mo.
show it to me. You need to
Sige,
provide a
sir.
table. I'm going to ask everyone to provide a drawing showing the different plots with the percentage of the saleable and non-saleable, and then you will add each plot so that it's more justified. So we're talking about the Mihan Garden boundary up to the other side where the mosque is. Okay, so it's good that you're already addressing the post office area, but being a design studio, my job is to sort of criticize where this is coming from. To be honest, I think you're just addressing the requirement. Um, I want you guys to always go back to your roots as a designer, like how you learn how to come up with a design. There needs to be a concept. It seems to me that the concept for the master plan is totally different from the one for the post office. So it's like when you're looking at a vision for a city, it's like it was like the different areas were designed by different architects. So how can you tell me that this was designed by one team? That's the first one, and the second one is the concept. If you notice, like all the groups, my style is always about working backwards because I want you guys to address first what is intuitive first, which is the functional aspect, the logical aspect, the problem aspect, and then because if we start with the concept and without realizing the practical situations and conditions of the site, we might become out of touch of that reality. So now that you have addressed and assuming that the efficiency ratio has been met, um, how will you explain the concept of this vision? Is there any, or it was just basically a random, arbitrary idea?
Um, sir, yung sa waterfalls, so yung unang-unang naisip namin dito is uh, yun nga, unang-unang idea namin is to put yung mga water fountains lang randomly, pero parang sobrang typical naman if we put a water fountain. So
I'm asking how's the relationship of this idea related to the rest of the project? How is this idea translated to the other parts of the project? Remember, my impression is it was designed by different architects, not by one team. Okay, so do you have an answer to that?
Medyo wala.
Okay, you need to fix that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you need to work backwards to cover it. Right now, you covered all the areas, but if this is going to be a competition, this is the impression of this entry is going to be chop suey or hodgepodge.
Apo.
Okay, So I want you to keep that in mind as a designer. Okay, Jeric?
Sige po.
Okay?
Okay, sir.
Sige. Okay, let's go to Jericho and Francis. Uy, ready na si Matcha.
Hello, sir. Kita na?
Yeah, kita na.
Okay. So, I'll just start off like, because last week we weren't really able to present yung post office part. We kind of forgot. So, this week, one of our goals was to develop more on the area for the post office, as well as yung target ni Burnham is how to provide access to Intramuros. So, those were one of our two goals. So, we made a quick site analysis lang, and we already found an accessible space, which is ASEAN Gardens. It's actually a public space which is accessible to Intramuros. But one thing that's not the reason why it's not really used is because it's on the outskirts, outer area siya ng Intramuros, so it's very hard to be accessible by the people. And aside from that, you already have big roads on the right side. And aside from that, you also have the yung Quintin Paredes Bridge and the other bridge leading to MacArthur Bridge. So those two, for us, we were trying to redesign that because aside from it blocking the vista for Metropolitan Theater, it was also it prevents people from accessing the public space because it looks sketchy, and parang because of the roads, it's harder to access it. You also have it's also very traffic in this area, and aside from that, you have like an underpass down there. But because you don't really have so much public space to be accessed once people go to the underpass, it's basically used for transport service lang. So sorry. So based from that idea, we try to sketch out what we actually planned. So because the main problem was because the two bridges were going above the public space. So in a way, it becomes dangerous. So we thought, na, what if we made it street level for those two bridges, but the Loton Avenue we made it underpass na lang. And then since it's gonna be underpass this red area, you have a potential for those three public spaces, which is Loton Plaza, Hidden Garden, and ASEAN Gardens to be connected. And aside from them being adjacent to one another, yung irregularity shape niya makes it, I guess, more interesting because it's like a 90, the three gardens are positioned at like 90 degrees. So in a way, the Hidden Garden becomes more of a pathway rather than a big public space lang. So imagine if you were in Plaza Loton and you can go to you don't directly see ASEAN Gardens, so there's more of like a sense of mystery. So in terms of position, that was good na. All we had to actually realize was how to connect these public spaces. And aside from that, we're not sure if we can place commercial buildings here, sir. Sa my bottom part around above the golf course area. Because it was actually beside the ASEAN Gardens, but when we look in Google Earth, it was like unused space lang. Parang sa may moat area siya, tapos may mga huts dito, but there are really no people in it. And we wanted to increase the public intimacy since saktong katabi din siya ng ASEAN Gardens, which it's actually a pretty garden and it's very open. So what we had an idea here is we leveled down the two bridges so that, and actually it's actually just 8 meters in width yung both streets, and it actually fit para yung mga other streets namin like doon sa San Miguel side. So we didn't really have to change the width, and it becomes, and we also place the underpass over here, as you can yung red, so it goes under instead. So that way you don't really have big street blocking the access point of all public spaces. And aside from the underpass, we also implemented a new kind of pedestrian lane. So it's more efficient. Because all the PUVs based on Google Earth, they stop by in this area, which is under the Quintin Paredes Bridge mismo. So since we're gonna make that Lotan Plaza, yung Lotan Avenue underpass, we placed another transport hub here to accommodate all those mga pasahero for the buses, for the jeeps, for the FM. And then that way there you'd have more space for public pedestrian lanes. And since you already have the underpass, we created a direct access from the underpass going to the plaza na. And there's also basically a route from Plaza Loto to Hidden Garden to ASEAN Garden. So that way, Intramuros is more accessible from this area. And we didn't really have to make so much parang big constructions that block out the vistas. So if you're in the public gardens, Metropolitan Theater, and the post office are easily very seen. The only issue here would be how high the trees are na siguro. So that was our initial idea for the post office area. Kasi yung mga commercial plaza pala, we plan na, we're not really sure if we can build there. So we thought, what if they were just our modular commercial spaces, so they can be easily transferred from one area to another. So that's basically it. Tapos we also redefined yung San Miguel area namin regarding yung patchworking that you were mentioning last week. So I think it's Francis' turn now.
Okay. So, yung ginawa namin dito, sir, is yung based dun sa feedback last week na yung patchwork dun sa side ng Ermita. So, ginawa lang namin in the San Miguel area, instead of the row housing that we came up with last week, minirror na lang namin yung patchwork na ginawa namin dun sa Ermita side, and in-enlarge na lang namin siya. And Jericho, next slide, please. Yung major changes dito is yung residential area. And yung major change is last week, yung residential areas namin is medyo scattered. And so ginawa namin dito is medyo group namin siya. Pero it's still parang divided between the two barangays, which is barangay 648 and 647. And we also resized the blocks. So
what are the red blocks?
Residential siya, sir. Ito yung residential, sir.
Yeah.
We resized namin yung blocks, sir. Yung old size na dati is 8 to 10 meters in width. So yung nilakyan namin siya ng 2 meters. So yung current size na is 10 to 12 meters in width.
Okay.
Next slide, please, Jericho. And for the commercial spaces, sir, since yung plan namin last week is yung commercial spaces, malapit lang dun sa Riverside Development, we decided to scatter it din. So mas accessible siya sa mga tao. And yung majority of the commercial spaces that we did, we turned it into bigger developments since last week medyo maliliit yung commercial developments namin in this area. And given na high density area ngayon San Miguel, I think it would be better if we enlarge the commercial developments to accommodate more people. And since malapit din siya doon sa area ng TIP, yung school, nag-add rin kami ng commercial space dyan sa yung bando dyan sa bottom middle. Yung tinabi namin siya dun sa proposal namin for a school near the mosque. Next slide, please. Jericho, next slide. And yung for the institutional, sir, we decided to enlarge the barangay hall. Jericho, pwede pa turo na yung barangay hall. Yan, sir. We decided to enlarge it kasi yung plan namin last week is yung barangay hall medyo smaller pa siya dun sa sa mosque. So we decided to enlarge it to parang to impose the presence of authority. Since yung napansin din namin na mga problem sa mga barangay ngayon is yung medyo maliliit na barangay hall, and parang in our opinion may connection yun between parang in terms of safety, since yung smaller barangay halls, they fail to impose the presence of authority. And since high density nga yung area, we decided to enlarge the barangay hall din to accommodate more people. And then yung mosque din, sir, ni-resize din namin siya. Nilakyan namin siya onte. And then yung katabi ng mosque, yung may courtyard, yung building dyan, ayun yung school, sir. And next slide, please. And then yung mga utilities, sir, binawasan namin siya onte. Since marami naman yung utility dedicated spaces namin near the Riverside development. And yun lang. Next slide. This one naman, sir, is yung idea namin for the bridge. So, yung bridge namin is nagpa-pass through doon sa town hall, yung dito sa left, and it goes underground. Pero yung bridge namin is basically it has 2 layers. So yung daanan sa ilalim is for the bikes, then yung daanan naman sa taas is for pedestrians. Diyan sila maglalakad. And if you notice, sir, yung bridge is my openings near the Riverside development, since recreational space siya. Yung idea namin dyan is pwede rin siya maging alternative route for bikes, since mahaba naman yung perimeter ng Riverside development namin. Next slide, please. And then ito naman yung other sides. Yung both exits ng idea namin for the bridge is nakatapat siya dun sa plaza. So na-imagine namin na once na gamitin to ng mga tao, like either pedestrian or mga cyclist, babatiin sila ng plaza na maraming tao, may mga vendors, ganun. And yung dito sa Riverside development namin, we decided to connect the commercial space dun sa bridge para at least it brings people to the commercial space. Next slide, please. This one, sir, another development for the lot post office area is we decided to put underground parking for the Metropolitan Theater. Since ayaw namin na provide ng open parking space lang na makakain ng space, and since yung proposal nga namin for the back of Metropolitan Theater is an outdoor plazas for the people, so like after show pwede silang punta doon. And yung ginawa namin dito, sir, is yung existing road from Metropolitan Theater, yung papunta dapat ng Loton, dinivert na lang namin siya going underground, and we used it as an underground parking. Next slide, please. This one naman, sir, is yung view from the big town hall that we proposed this week from in the San Miguel area. And meron ding similar view yung dun sa Ermita side, pero pipresent naman siya mamaya. Wait lang, Jericho. Balik ka muna.
Wait lang daw. Excited eh.
Ayan. Ito yung sir,
sorry.
ito yung entrance from the town hall. Tapos ito yung parang na-frame na view ng entrance from the town hall going to the plaza in front of the mosque. Since we decided to place the town hall din dito, sir, kasi yung idea nga namin for the mosque area is yung based doon sa nakita namin na research na mosque are not always, I mean hindi lang siya dedicated for religious, pwede rin siyang space for academic. So yung ginawa namin dito is hindi na namin dinivide ng defined yung plaza. Parang naglagay na lang kami ng buildings to parang define the division between the plaza near the school and the mosque. And then ito yung naging view from the town hall and yung mosque, sir. So next slide. Ito naman sir yung yung view from the town hall in Ermita side. And yung nakita dyan sa bottom is yung from the underground passage, yung proposal namin for the bridge, yung 2 layers. And yung building dyan sa harap sir is yung GSIS building. And since we plan to repurpose it, medyo mas gaganda yung view kahit nahaharangan siya. And yun nga, yung tower ng City Hall, kita pa rin from this perspective. So, we plan to develop the GSIS building pa in yung area niya. Next slide, Jericho. Yan na ba lahat?
I think that's the last
Okay.
one.
Oh, okay. Yun lang, sir. Yun lang for this week.
Okay, keep this image still because I'm really loving it, even though we're not sure how the GSIS building looks like from the back. This gives you a picture of like you create a dramatic vignette for the city. Even if we already have the details of the GSIS building, the fact that the clock tower is smack on the center, I think this is a very unique way to highlight an important building. And then can we go to the mosque, to the view of the mosque on the other side? Just the same, this idea is also quite commendable because you're not doing the typical putting them on center. I think I don't know if you have specs already or photography or something, and somewhat you're applying the same principle. You don't have to make it center; it can be off center, etc. So you create that kind of imagery for the city. And I agree that the plaza doesn't have to be the typical plaza or square. It can be defined by a group of buildings. Yeah, and then that's how you successfully did it. And previous slide. Yeah. Okay, not so much. No, not. Okay. I particularly love the design of this area. I'm not sure if this is the final design yet. I'm sure this is not the final yet. But I'm getting the idea, especially the parks on the right side. I think you are employing the patchwork concept. Maybe my only frustration is that I would have approved this already because I'm already loving the development of the master plan if the patchwork idea was also applied in the post office area.
Okay, sir.
Did
We'll
you
work
get
on
it?
that.
That's
Yeah,
exactly
Yes, sir.
we weren't sure because that's where if we could have placed commercial buildings there. That's why we left it as a
I mean, it
public
doesn't
space
have to
as
be a
of now.
commercial area. You talk about the physicality,
Yes,
but
sir.
you cannot transform the entire post office building area into commercial development. I mean, we're talking about the parks. You're talking about the sunken gardens. You played with levels on this proposal. Although I know that some of the boxes are commercial developments, but the parcels are subdivided with grass areas that that still replicate the same design language. It reminds me of the Dao Ando project in I forgot which project in Japan that has the same rooftop that was replicated or probably copied in a hotel in Boracay. I saw. I don't know if you're familiar with that. With those green roof, just Google it. I saw it in a lot of my friends' Boracay photos, but it has that imagery. But I want you guys to highlight and work on it. If you notice, that was
Okay,
my
sir.
criticism on Jeric and Mac, not to dishearten them, but to improve on what they're doing because they are almost completing the requirement. But when it comes to design, it's a constant iteration and develop so that until we get satisfied with the idea. And they're ticking the boxes already, but when you look at the overall idea, there's something lacking with it because it is as if it's a banal project because you know that the ideas are disconnected. The ideas were sort of a segmented approach wherein somebody designed the bridge, somebody designed the development, the master plan, somebody designed the park over the Burgos area. You guys are lucky because you already applied the patchwork idea for the master plan. You updated your master plan. All you need to do is just try to figure out and explore the possibility of this morphology
Okay.
in the park setting, right? So
Okay.
good job on this. Okay, so have no further
Thank you, sir.
okay. Okay, sige, thank you guys. Do you
Sir,
have any questions?
sir, yung ano, yung dun sa part ng um, post office. Kasi sir, yung initial idea namin is to develop the front, pero natakot kami na maharangan yung vista nung yung harap ng post office. Kasi sabi niyo last week, sir, na mas prefer nyo na parang landscape idea lang for the plaza in front of the post office.
Yeah, the idea
So,
is still a landscape idea. But what's the design language of the landscape idea?
yes, sir.
But I'm also open if you can justify the commercial development.
Okay, sir.
Like for instance, if you do the patchwork thing, the play of levels, it's all made of greenery, it's all made of landscaping, flora, and probably one of those boxes is a commercial development hidden in the landscape.
Okay, sir.
You get it? There's so many
Yeah.
possibilities.
Yeah, I got sir. Yeah, I can imagine it na.
Okay, so yeah, so okay. Other questions?
Wala naman na, sir. Yun lang po for today.
Okay, sige. Thank you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the input, sir.
Okay, who wants to go next? Volunteer? Okay, shy pa. Sige, Bea and Jao? Or Andre and Carlos?
We could go.
Okay, go. You can see.
Yeah, is Bea here?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Just screen share.
Wow, may detail ng City Hall. And GSIS building.
Took a long time.
I can imagine.
Okay, so okay, yeah. So for this week, we kind of wanted to continue what we mentioned last week and how we wanted to develop further. So then from before, like last week, we talked about adding a skate park, which we did place near the LRT station and the school nearby, and also the development of the Pinavia area, because from a couple of weeks back, we did create a sort of skyway for the cars that would travel along like a circular pathway, and we kind of redesigned, well, not redesigned, like did the roads, and as well as the front of the Manila City Post Office, where there is the monument over there. But then we wanted to kind of reincorporate the fountain and make it more involved with the people and the monument itself. And then also the last thing that we did was a bridge from Manila City Hall towards Intramuros. So yeah, the first thing we're gonna talk about actually is the skate park. But then first we just want to show the FTG. Oh, actually it's this one where it shows the mapping of all the buildings, and it's anyways. So next is the skate park. So then when we wanted to place the skate park, the initial idea was to create a place for the skating community of the area, where we were inspired to place it from looking at the signs that restricted skaters from skating in flat surfaces that aren't really dedicated for them. So then we created a skate park that really provided a space for them, and also we felt like could be a park not only for them but also be used by other people that are probably biking or just want to take a stroll around the area, and also a space that could be multi-purpose as well. So then we did want it to be a place that is not necessarily like completely designed for to only be used for skateboards and everything, but then we wanted it also to be a place that could be rented out and stuff for the community, because we wanted to have a more open space that really invited a lot of energy and possible festivities around the area, since it's near like a school and also a residential area on the other side. And yeah, so then, because when we were designing the skate park also, sorry, I just want to mention, like a lot of skate parks that we were looking at when we were studying how these things are mapped out, there were a lot of open plants that aren't really shaded that often. But then when thinking about incorporating it into a tropical country, we did want to provide shading and really incorporated proper landscaping to provide natural shading and like canopy of trees to shade and make it cooler for the people that are using the space. So yeah, that's, and oh yeah, also around the area there's actually commercial spaces that wrap around because it's connected to the pedestrian walkway, the main pedestrian walkway that connects to the bridge that we'll show later on. So yeah, that's excellent. So for this one also, I mentioned earlier that we wanted to develop the front of the Manila post office, and also, I forgot to mention actually, the Met Theater. So then the Manila Metropolitan, we wanted to redesign the back part of it and create like a sort of narrative from after you're watching a play or like some sort of show, like what would it be like to go down and walk towards this garden and that would lead you towards like the other bridges or possibly Araceras Forest Park even. So then when we were designing this area, okay, this is actually the most close-up we got rendering and showing you guys. But when we were kind of designing it, we wanted to kind of be inspired by the designer of, well, the involved architect of the Met Theater itself. So then like, well, I was kind of studying Juan M. Arellano, like his paintings and stuff, and I wanted it to be somewhat nostalgic and memorable towards what he was able to do in his time and stuff. So then when we were looking at his paintings and everything, we really noticed the landscaping he would really paint often and his appreciation towards round and circular fountains whenever he would paint some landscaping and everything. So then we wanted to bring a more kind of grid form of passageway so that it kind of creates a division for spaces where larger areas could be used for like outdoor, possibly outdoor theater and stuff, like activities for this time, and also like a place where they could make pasyal or something around the area after or before a show and everything. So it provides a sort of activity for the people who are going to use the Met Theater, or even like who are going past Araceras Park and just want to kind of experience this type of vibe or whatever. Yeah. And then going towards the Manila Post Office, I mentioned earlier how we wanted to really reincorporate the fountain into the area and them with the monuments area. And when we were kind of thinking of the fountain, we did want the place to be, well, very active and involve a lot of the people that are going into the space. So then when we created this fountain, we were thinking of having those floor fountain types of designs where the water would come out of the floor and could kind of shoot up and create probably a really nice effect, where sometimes it would be a systematic sequence that would really appreciate the space. And also we felt like it would be transformative as well, because as you could see, the monument is wrapped up by a rectangular form that is kind of pushed down, like that's lower, like a lower level flooring. So when the sequence of the water would be turned off, maybe people could walk around. When it's on, then it would be really a fun way to go around those water features and like kind of be able to really be a part of this monument. And also we felt like it could be transformative also in a way that in probably special events, like this space could transform into not only a fountain but a little pond where it would trap possibly water. But then we're kind of just thinking into detail and how it could be possibly in our design. And yeah, Jao can talk about the Pinavia area now.
So in this part, we kind of just reassessed how tall it was and how it disrupts the view of the post office from afar. And so we kind of took one like road down, and that allowed us to lower within the required like limit. I think it was 4.46 meters for like in these stuff, the clearance. So we kind of just did that, and then we added the railings and the post over here, and yeah, that's kind of about it. And we kind of redesigned the this thing over here, and then we added more roads, and we kind of fixed some of them by adding like roundabouts in some parts, and it should show here. There's another roundabout somewhere there, but then that's about it. Yeah, but
Okay,
next
sorry.
one would be oh, next one would be like a walkthrough that we kind of did just to show how it doesn't really remove the vista from in the car, like having these rails or having this Pinavia. The intended purpose is to like glide around these two things and have this front view of the post office um without the blockage of the trees in the sides. So, oh yeah, oh no. So this is what you see. Oh, oops. Oh no. Wait,
Okay.
I have to pause it somewhere. Okay, here. Okay, so this is what you see, and how you could see the one Bea mentioned a while ago, with how it could be a dancing fountain, and it could drain and be, or I mean, it could fill up, and it could be a small pond, small reflective pond for the statues itself. So yeah, kind of like that. And I think we failed to mention that we moved it as well towards the fountain before, and so that it could really frame itself like this. So yeah, and then okay, for the next one, we are talking about the bridge. So if we go to the master plan, the bridge is located here, and it kind of connects the city hall area in here to the intramuros area, or entry, I mean, over there. And then if we go back, so this is kind of it. Our initial idea was to actually sort of connect intramuros area to the city hall, because we felt like this golf course over here served as this moat, sort of this defense to isolate itself to the rest of the city. So, and we were talking about how maybe we could connect them together and sort of create a bond. So this bridge kind of becomes like this, a right arm for the city hall to connect the two cities together. And because of this bridge, we kind of transformed the previously golfed area to a more open, more kind of like a central park where it has different realms of different types of parks. As mentioned before, like there was the Sea and Gardens, and then golf course now turned into a more uh, with more trees, I guess. And yeah, and now this allows for us to make this place more transformative. We include more sports, not just golf, which is kind of, I feel like it may be a bit wasting in space. By applying more sports, we could probably apply or add or invite more people in this space. And then for this iteration of the bridge, because we have two, we kind of lifted this up and kind of copied the identity of the skate park with how round it is, so that we could keep the design cohesive. And of course, we also kept the bridge fairly low so that it won't really overpower the post office or the city hall here. And yeah, basically for this one, that will be the idea. And then we have another iteration, but this one's the very first one, actually, where it kind of creates a green roof of terrain that um, undulates down the the golf course, or the park now, and then how people could create more typologies below the bridge. So yeah, that's kind of it for the bridge. And then, oh, what's the okay? And then here's the intended purpose, because we kind of criticized how Burnham wanted um, the vista to feel like, and to be able to feel the vista um, to the post office. We need a car to drive through the the place, and maybe it's okay if we could walk as well. And but then we found like this, by putting bridge over it, we kind of shared this road, and we kind of also lifted it up to create more vistas that is more human scale. And it also kind of creates this, what do you call this, feature culture, I guess, of adding more sports, or adding more activities in the area, because we as it seems, our plan or our urban design is focused on, or lots of it has sports embedded to the idea. So yeah, that's kind of it.
Okay.
And then I think it's Bea's turn
Yeah, maybe you can show the number, this
to round up.
perspective,
Yeah.
or not. Okay, this one. So then, yeah, for the area around the mosque, we kind of kept it the same. And I just want to show the perspective of the
Oh, this one.
area. Yeah, because last week we actually introduced like a new design for the bridge, creating it to become three-way and still allowing a form of landscaping by using possibly like the mangroves to be at the center of the bridge itself. And by when we were trying to improve it, we mentioned before from your advice that we had to lift it up and kind of curve it. So we decided to actually arc the bridge and also add pillars underneath to provide stability, structural stability. And also with this perspective, we wanted to show how by lifting up this bridge, we kind of created a different form of vista for the city hall, and not just a lowered form, but then kind of lifted up and better appreciates the city hall itself. So yeah, and now we can actually just summarize the entire thing.
This one.
So yeah, for the mosque area, as I mentioned, we kept it the same, and we wanted to add kind of a place for boats to dock on the side, but then that's actually seen in our master plan itself, not really detailed in this area. But then we did want to keep it pedestrianized and still allowing cars to roam around the edges of patches of space that are provided for both for office, commercial, and residential areas. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And the same goes in the office area here. kind of the same thing, and we also duplicated this idea towards the other side. I think we should show it, just over here. So yeah, that's kind of it.
Okay. So
And yeah, here's the master plan.
okay, I have a question. Can we go to the image showing the bridge? Oh, wow.
This one.
Remember you created two schemes for the bridge. Yeah, this one. Uh,
Mhm.
why did you create a second scheme? I'm just curious. For the bridge.
Oh, yeah, cause we intended to kind of like something super radical, I guess. Making we were initially thinking of like putting the entrance or the end of the bridge over this part, and that's kind of so we're just kind of like experimenting on the possibilities of these two kinds of bridges. But in the end, maybe we might end up using this one, but because this one's more cohesive to the site, but the
Okay.
second one was a bit more experimental and playful. So yeah,
That one is experimental. One.
kinda, yeah,
Well, with
because
the
there's a
schemes
huge
of the
canopy
bridges, we kind
down
of made
below.
two because we weren't entirely sure yet when we were creating the different designs of how we wanted to go about the area. But then we really did agree on how, in creating the bridge, we did want to, as Jam mentioned earlier, how we didn't want to overpower the areas, and also by providing a porous design for the bridge, we allowed possible vistas and non and when cars or pedestrians are coming from the other side, they wouldn't really be blocked off from seeing the post office itself. But then with the other design, we wanted to incorporate more of a green walkway as compared to the other scheme where it was more structural and not entirely like a green bridge or anything. So then, yeah, as Ja mentioned, we probably would want to go with this one more as it is cohesive and agrees with all the things that we want to implement with the space.
Okay. Actually, the only reason why I was asking is because um I wanted to find out how sure and confident you are with your ideas, because at the end of the day, you have to decide on your own which ones is good. It's good that you further discuss it, and I get the sense that you are more confident with this one compared to the second one, and you were just exploring. Because if it's going to be about uncertainty, it's a little uh, negative for me, because you need to develop your confidence in your vision, and then just like how you became adamant about the flyover. If you can go to that image, please. Remember, I was criticizing the design of the flyover fronting the the post office building, and now you prove to me that it can still remain abstract in a way, with the practical structural elements. But I think it can be more abstract than what you propose. But it's up to you, up to you guys how you're going to further develop it. But based on the scheme, it's convincing enough. But if you go back to your chosen scheme, the sweeping, the sinuous, undulating footbridge fronting near the Manila City Hall, it's going to have the same condition. It's beautiful from afar, but eventually, of course, you need to keep in mind the safety of the pedestrians crossing, because they might fall off. So you can, if you are able to think of a railing system or railing design in such a way that you don't lose the formal quality of the solution, maybe you can apply to the flyover. So because the railings that you introduce in the flyover, for me it's acceptable, but I really thought that it can be improved on, because you want to achieve that really artistic quality of that farm, and you want to preserve that. So I want you guys to find out. I mean, not find out, but decide if you want to further develop it. I mean, develop the purity, but how you can propose a better railing design for it. Just like how you are going to develop this footbridge with the railing design, with this railing design. This goes for everyone. My comment regarding the concept. Um, Maybe before I make my comment, maybe I can ask this group what the same question I asked the previous groups. What do you think is the overarching idea behind your overall development?
Volume was so the overarching idea of the entire plan, master plan.
If not overarching, what do you think is the common idea that you think you can use as a take-off point when you are explaining the main idea behind this? Because you know, I, I I'm always very open about my process. It's always working backwards because I feel like this is the best and effective way for me to teach the student on uh, on the design part and how to understand solving uh, problems and proposing designs, and then you work backwards. Because normally you start with the concept, but again, my problem there's a problem with that process right now. The most efficient way with the 13 weeks that we have is to work backwards. So that's basically the reason behind why I'm asking now or demanding what is the general concept, if not overarching concept of this idea of this project.
Well, okay. Well, for how I'm gonna form it, because we actually didn't really talk about the overarching idea, but then it was sort of intuitive for us already, because whenever we designed parts of the thing individually and kind of consulted with each other, there was a lot of there wasn't much disagreement because we really agreed with a single thing that we wanted to implement with the spaces. So then I guess with the considering our process and how we did the master plan where we really built from inside out, I guess the overarching idea, if it is one, because I'm not really sure how to form one, is being able to create intimate spaces for the individual person of the community, I
Okay.
guess.
Okay, I think you're just thinking out loud and trying to. Maybe Jao can say something. You have something to say?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes, sir. Yeah. I think what she's trying to say is that, because since we built this or we designed this meticulously, kind of like one by one, and that could be our bane or it could be a bad thing or a good thing. But then what we tried to do is the experience and how we could make a cohesive design or urban design by following the human scale of condensing or like applying what they need and what they see in their own self, and from that we also as seen in the whole idea, we added lots of sports and everything like that. So we it was really for the people in what's the word, like in a specific way or in how we saw it. Yeah, and I guess like that. I
Okay.
don't know if I made sense.
Yeah, it made a total sense. Bea mentioned the keyword uh, intuition, like intuitive. It's actually there already. And just to reiterate something, when John mentioned, I don't know if it's correct or wrong. Actually, there's really right and wrong process. It's just all about the legibility and the integrity of the process, and the idea, and the process that informing that idea. Let me help you because we would probably just confirm it na lang with me, but based on the organic uh, process that you took, because you were just doing it, step by step. I think the overall concept here is that you're making a city that is more active, That's why intuitive uh, incidentally you created a lot of spaces that deal with uh, people doing sports, being more creating a lot of movement, and the form sort of translated in the end. Um, Maybe because a lot of you guys think of a concept as a form. It doesn't have to be form always, all the time. Sometimes it's all about the idea. Sometimes it's all about the idea of movement. Sometimes the idea of uh, of a lifestyle, the idea of whatever, and then the rest will just follow. So and even though the forms are not obviously consistent, you know that there's one designer that did all of these things because I think whenever I see the open spaces, the in between spaces of the buildings, and then the sports facilities, etc., and now these bridges, and then the skate park, uh, I sense the consistency, and I think that's in a way a result of that intent that you want this place to be more active, and you recognize that need for your stakeholders. So I'm not sure if that could be what you can use. What do you guys think? Making, I don't know the exact words yet, but based on what I witnessed, I think the common thing is really, creating a very active city. Is it, or am I wrong?
No, yeah, I agree with actually your interpretation of our plan and how it is an active space. Well, yeah, it actually became really unconsciously designed that way, where we did want to have a very active community because when we were designing residential spaces for um like families or even
It was already there.
possible, yeah, it's already right there. So then
Yeah.
yeah, we can actually use that.
Actually, that's actually the purpose of us discussing all of these things, including the process, because I want to show you. Nah, I want to show you. Uh, I want to show you that subconsciously you already have a concept, and some of you are are not aware of it. I think some of the groups were just pressured, just to tick the boxes of requirements, and somewhat you guys are immersing in providing a really good plan for this project, and that it's a result. It shows. No, so now you have an overview. You an overview of what you've done, and probably in the next chance that you are going to design something, you can start with the concept already, and
Yeah.
already consciously how you can apply all of these ideas with the concept that you started with, because now that we are able to define the concept that based on as a result of that intuition, when you say active spaces, then you see the design itself. You can easily relate them together. You're not BSing. Kasi one of the flaws of concept first, etc. Many of the projects that I saw before is BS because I can't see the relationship between the concept and the actual product. You know what I mean? So now,
Yeah.
I can totally see the integrity of the two ideas. So yeah, okay. I want you guys to complete this, and I think you started doing so with the detailing of the buildings, and an initial walkthrough, which is really good. And I hope you have a walkthrough of this footbridge, because it will be a very dramatic and immersive experience to see how City Hall is going to be viewed from that perspective,
Yeah.
and also the
Okay.
city.
Right, sir.
Okay. Anything else, guys?
Maybe I just want to add. Just
Yeah,
quick.
sure.
The railings in the bridge. There should have been railings, but then I've experienced the limitations of SketchUp. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
This is
So
just SketchUp. This is not even a Rhino.
yeah, yeah,
No. Yeah, it's
yeah.
Oh,
SketchUp.
wow.
I don't know how to use Rhino.
That's
So,
really impressive. This is really impressive. If it
yeah,
if
good
it
job.
catch up. So you're keeping the Bonifacio shrine, huh? That colorful Bonifacio.
I
Oh, that KKK
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Uh, maybe another lesson is that while the illustrations, the visualizations are good, I'm very happy with it. You are familiar how the Bonifacio shrine looks like, right? Colors, etc.
Very colorful, yeah.
Yeah. So
I
later on,
do.
the next step is how do you relate your visualization into actual thing? Uh, it's very easy to get seduced by the renderings, seduced by the diagrams, but you need to have a some sort of a foresight on how you are imagining your proposal as the actual thing versus the rendering. Do you get it? So
Yeah.
you know, because when I'm sans the Bonifacio Shrine, if I'm just going to base the the aesthetic of the visualization with the actual, I'm imagining a different thing. I imagine the city hall to be all white, you know, and I'm imagining the city to be in although it's all white in the diagram, but I'm imagining it like a lot of glass, a lot of tropical, but with glass, you know what I mean. So with concrete flooring, etc. Very different from the palette of the Bonifacio Shrine. You know, can you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because because the current city
yeah.
hall, the color palette can match the Bonifacio Shrine somehow because it has that red thing, and then the Bonifacio Shrine has that red thing. So I mean, these are minor things, but you know, I want you guys to be very sensitive about when you are designing your projects later on. All right. Okay.
Okay, so
Okay. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
So after the break, let me just take a break and have dinner. Don't disconnect anymore. Uh, any volunteer who wants to go next?
Okay. So, yeah, not naman a lot sheets to present this week, sir. Pero we focus mainly on replanning the Lawton area, or like everything kind of left of the train station, actually. So we kind of replanned this whole area to kind of be more cohesive with the idea we had for the other area, that being to kind of combine spaces or to connect them and kind of make it as if you can go to an entirely different area or environment, depending on whichever direction you go. So here, this is a isometric view of the whole site, like just for visualization. And okay, Andre.
Alright, so this is the Lawton area. So what we wanted to focus on for this area mainly is to try to connect the green spaces as much as possible and also focus on the pedestrian circulation. So that's why the pathways are shaped in different ways, because there are specific pathways go to because of transportation reasons for the post office, or they just want to have a good time in a free park. And so under these structures would be the bus stops or public vehicles stops mainly, and also public restroom and other amenities. So mainly here in front of the post office, we just wanted to keep it as open as possible to give a good vista for the people. And for the Bonifacio Monument, we just separated it from the site to make it a part of the hidden garden area, because there's no specific placemaker for that. So we decided it's best to move it there. So some of the specifications of the uses aren't exactly specified yet, but I'll just try to annotate this. So in this area particularly, specified to be a viewpoint area for people to sit in and enjoy the sight of seeing the new city hall and the Met Theater. And it also allows access to the ASEAN Garden. And so the spaces under here are actually most likely commercialized. So there's a good reason for it being commercialized. So the area over here is actually a university, and lots of students would go to this area for food. And there's also a lot of food vendors here. So it's a good opportunity for us to increase the transparency of the food vendors. And so for the other areas here beside the post office, I'll explain later in a different sheet.
Okay. And then just to add on to that, sir. Yeah, so if you'll notice, we kind of took out the overpasses and we kind of made them under instead, because it didn't make sense to me at the time. It was the people or pedestrian traffic that was put underground and the cars would go over. So it kind of showed that, yeah, the overall plan was kind of focused on the traversal of vehicles. So we wanted to flip that naman. That way, the cars would go underground. Anything utility-wise would be kind of hidden, and um, we'd mainly focus on pedestrian environments and connecting all the green spaces around to create one cohesive design to highlight, yeah, the Met Theater and the post office. And then, Andre, or you want me to do it? So yeah.
Now I'm in the other sheet.
Uh,
Yeah, well, yeah, that's very important. But basically, we wanted to make the area a little bit different from the rest of the green space surrounding Intramuros. So in here, we decided that there could be a good potential to put a museum over there to complement the different museums already located in the Rizal Park, so that it's somewhat cohesive and bleeding into our site. And beside that, we wanted to create a water feature. So it's sort of like a water park for the area that will be different in terms of use and how the people enjoy the green spaces. Yeah, Carlos.
Yeah, and then just adding on to that again. So this pond here, wait, I'll show actually in the top view. We want to create a water feature here to kind of cool down the area thermally, because yeah, on the other parts of the site, it has the river and the Estera, so it has its own dedicated water feature that kind of helps the environment and helps kind of cool it down. So we want to do the same thing here, but kind of create something different as well, because when I did research on like water features in certain places, they actually use man-made ponds that they can use for revenue generation as well. So we were thinking of possible like activities like fishing in the area and like maybe using the loop to jog around or any general activity. But mainly the one we were trying to highlight was the idea of fishing because yeah, it's revenue generating for the city as well, and that the way it works naman talaga is they actually import fishes or they kind of bring it in like trucks in like tanks of water and they'll just refresh it every now and then. So while it is like man-made, it's still possible and has been proven to be profitable in other cities naman. So it's a nice environment for the public as well as activities, and it's also yeah profiting for the city. And then this is our last feature we wanted to add. So we wanted to make use of the area between the old city hall and the Metropolitan Theater, as well as for the train station. So you put like an amphitheater kind of area here. So it's kind of depressed into the ground a little bit to kind of make use of the space more and allow you to really sit down or chill in the area. Because the way I envisioned it was like under the LIT was actually a commercial area for mga stalls or maybe shops that would be more relevant to the people of the area. And then like, coming down from the train station, for example, after coming out to the commercial establishment, you would see this open space where people would be um, just using the general area. And then maybe like you could have like music performers like using the space constantly. That way, it kind of elevates the atmosphere in the area, um, promoting the culture and arts as well. So it kind of makes this area unique in a sense. And then it kind of is the central focus point of the area coming behind the Metropolitan Theater and for the plaza in front of the Old City Hall. So it kind of rounds it up together and brings everything to one central point. That way, it's cohesive and gives a whole different activity to the people of the area. And then, yeah. Andre, are you still gonna present your other thing, or is this all no?
Yeah, I'll share the sketch.
Okay, I'll stop sharing screen then.
So, sir, can you see the screen? Is the screen sharing working?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's working already. Yeah.
Okay, so sir, in terms of what you said last week, we agree that the legibility of the overarching idea isn't as clear. So what we initially wanted for our overarching idea is to have these different plazas and nodes generally to be ways for people to travel to different places and spaces. But um, we wanted to enhance this idea further and strengthen it. So what we did was identify the main plazas or areas first to establish a high. I'll just annotate this. So what we recognize from what we did in the site is that based on the previous weeks, we actually somewhat created different spaces for different communities because each of them have their own distinct characteristics. So here it's mostly the Filipinos. And based on research, they really believe in their city planning in terms of monotheism, wherein they all share one belief and sort of the same structure. So we want to follow that idea to support the culture of the Muslims. And over here, we actually sort of developed it to become a centric area that's mixed in with the university spaces. And here, this is probably going to be our main civic plaza since we moved our city hall functions to the post office. And so what happened here is that uh, we created a circle around it that's around the 400-meter radius for the walkability. And we found that the center between all these points is over here. So we wanted to create this part to be the central point most likely. And all these different nodes are within 180 to 220-meter radius from one another so that each place can have a different context and different kind of purpose because that's something we also wanted to implement. And so to further make this area a lot more cohesive and strengthened, based on different problems that we found, we wanted to actually implement Burnham's idea about having those recreational spaces or an escape from Manila. So we thought that that idea, we can implement it along the entire site. So initially, we didn't really make use of the golf course area. So since we found out that we could actually use it, there's the potential for us to extend this all the way throughout our site. And so this actually coincides with the other Burnham principle wherein he emphasized on outer parks for different communities. So we placed our recreational spaces strategically outside of the main plazas over here. So for this main civic area, it's actually anchored to 4 different specific green spaces. And this line helps distinguish different communities while also connecting them so that it's all cohesive. So the review in terms of the city hall area, this part will be pretty much unified into one park. And since we know that people would like to eat, usually after going to the post office, we wanted to allocate spaces for the informal vendors here. So it'll be a food park area or a hawker center, since it's something we wanted to implement within our previous work. And for this area, we actually are deciding on whether we should move the multimodal wait, not the multimodal, the ferry terminal over here to this area specifically because it has a good opportunity to be a purely open, pure green space because it's actually opening up to the view of the Fiat University. And besides that, it actually creates a pedestrian pathway that is continuous from the ASEAN Garden going to the Arceras Forest Park. So the forest park will be much bigger. People have much more green space to enjoy. And so as we go along, you can see how these different kinds of recreational spaces differ from one another depending on their context. So over here we had the amphitheater that we talked about a while ago, the City Hall Plaza. You can still further develop the specific place later on during the weeks. And over here, we actually decided to move the Universidad de Manila from this site to here because it's much more cohesive and makes sense as this is part of the university belt and it's much closer to the dorms. And more than that, the GSIS building will be most likely dedicated to displaying and showing off the works of the students. So it helps characterize this area much more. And over here in the Islamic community, we created yet again more spaces that adhere to the culture of the community. So Civic Plaza and Park. And over here, we wanted to create a riverfront bazaar because in the Muslim city planning, bazaars are actually quite important and unique to the Muslim culture, wherein it's somewhat close to the mosque area. And yeah, we have a residential park for them. So this is how we wanted to unify the entire site, given that the LR actually divides it. So with this concept, it unifies the whole site. And so in terms of moving the ferry terminal, there's actually a good potential to make the transport line much more clear. So this entire that's highlighted in yellow is pretty much where you can find all the public utility vehicles so that it's not also scattered. And it also actually unifies the three different zones. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. But also for the central point, we're not sure how to fully develop it, but to implement the Burnham idea of romanticizing the river point, we believe that there's a good typology within the ferry terminal and other kinds of spaces to make the river much more enjoyable. So that's going to be planning to develop next week. And we just wanted to like share the plans and see if it's okay. And yeah, that's it, sir.
Okay. Make sure that this is included in your presentation for the final presentation, for the final review when Sir Jerry sees your work. I think based on your explanation, you're working on nodes of activities, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yun. So highlight these areas and just make sure that you're not just pointing dots on the map, but without translating it into actual areas of activity. Because if, for example, we're talking about certain open spaces, if you don't have um, any stimulus for a human activity, it will be very difficult to make that happen. Just like the museum can be a crowd magnet, but not Filipinos are not museum goers generally, and that is why Ayala Museum is located in the mall. That's the purpose of the Ayalas to bring the 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 museum culture to the people who loves going to the mall. So it's the same case with the water feature, but it can be an added um, feature. Although personally, I'm 50-50 with the museum on the remaining open space. But I understand your goal is to create these notes for maybe we can hear Sir Jerry's thoughts the moment you finalize this. Uh, yeah, and then try to strengthen that idea, the node idea, and just make sure that each node can, you know, has that stimulus. All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So yeah, thank you guys, Carlos. Do you have any questions, Carlos and Andre?
None from me naman, sir. Like, or is there anything like you want us to kind of finalize before we kind of go on with the final requirements?
No,
Like, other than
you can already pursue this because we can only do so much in 13 weeks, and that is why the learning outcome is really from listening from the critique of each work, and if you have a project, you know, I just want you guys to commit to it, whether you're happy with it or not, and then just try to learn from it and apply and immerse, and then develop the project, and and then uh, not all the time you have to follow me. You know, you just need to argue your case. You just need to argue your position on the design, and that's all I'm asking for. And but yeah, definitely there will be a final presentation. Actually, I was about to announce. Anyway, I'm going to announce it now. That we don't have to meet next week. I want to give you guys time to work on this, and then allow time to for the upload before, and allow time for Sir Jerry to view your presentation. So but if you want to consult me, I'll be available on the same day. All right.
yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. uh
Thank you, sir.
okay,
Thank you,
Darren
sir.
and Mark.
Hi, sir. Aaron.
Yep, okay. Wait, ikaw ba muna?
Ikaw mag-share.
Okay.
Okay. Hello, sir. For this week, we took a step back from the recreational walkable routes concept, and here's an update of what we had before. So here is a main road network where the biggest change is the access in San Marcelino to Antonio Villegas, where it used to be X and Y axis grid type, but now we just made it simpler according to the GSIS building, and um, also the idea of Darren rerouting the road networks there. And on the right side, uh, opening up two roads to connect to the Carlos Palanca Road to make it easier for the Islamic community. And next, for the main pedestrian roads, we updated what we had before, and now it's based first from the clock tower, and it's going vista to the edge because Burnham wanted to see the landmark where you're from the Pasig River, and when you're in the ferry, that's kind of similar to Paris, where you go along the route and you see landmarks on from the boat, and uh, and then that kind of created that radial road network from where the pedestrians uh, could go, where it serves as a main public space for the city. And we have your access roads dedicated to specific spaces. On the other left sides, um, yeah, dedicated to specific spaces that will be discussed later. And on the other side, we have these roads that gets to the center and towards the mosque for the Islamic community. And Darren will explain the next part.
Okay. So I'm just showing this. This is the study that I made last week regarding the schools in the vicinity. So parang last week I just thought of considering the schools, parang and how it could affect the city. And yeah, this week we had an idea on how we could revamp this. Okay, yeah. How we could revamp it into the city by creating centers for um learning and development, like research facilities, um early learning centers. So catering to the schools around it. So parang um the focus of the city, aside from it following the Burnham idea, is also looking forward with um how these students could help boost the economy, the technology, and all the other innovation stuff in the Philippines. So yeah, I'll present this stuff. I'll try to make it as quickly as possible. Pero yeah, so the yellow ones are the existing schools right now, like what I mentioned a while ago. And what I discovered is the course that is usually taken, the program, I mean, it's more of engineering, sciences, and technology. And given in this city that it is surrounded by this big schools, this great universities, I don't think there's enough space for them to have that kind of um exploration on their fields, on their specialties. So yeah, that's what I did in the first part of the planning. So I focus first on the centers for learning and development. And yeah, I just forgot to put a tag on it, but this, for example, like this part, um at first I was thinking of creating the student hubs that could cater the schools around it, such as PNU, UP, and Adamson, and even Santa Isabel. So it's like it's a hub not just uh for them to do their work there. So parang what I was thinking is it could be a 24/7 kind of building, generator type in a way, but then it could have a bigger purpose than that. And then I was also thinking creating early learning center for children. So like imagine the city, this part of the city as a whole, and uh from this vicinity, from this closer look, there's no uh like early learning centers, like such as kindergarten, that are really empowering the students' mindset. So like uh I thought, what if we kind of we put it in the city, and it is surrounded by rich culture and um research facilities and innovation. So like uh it's maybe it kind of looking far from the Burnham idea, but what he actually uh wanted to is for it to be more inclusive, the spaces, for it to have this social gathering, and for it to be sustainable. So yeah, I was just thinking of it like as a future for references. And then yeah, so that's the first part. And then this one, since from last week research, Arasaras park has over 3,000 species of trees and maybe insects. I haven't really um, researched about on that part. But then I was thinking this Aroseros Park, it could be more than just park. Sorry, than just park, and like for example, using this Aroseros Park to kind of um have a research facility that could maybe influence the other parts of Manila or maybe other cities. And yeah, that's my first thought for it. Um, really creating that ecological research building on that part, and then yeah, maybe you could also research on different herbal medicine that is um really popular with the Filipino culture, and yeah, and then uh yeah, moving on is uh, a sports facility, a sports complex. So I put it as a center for learning and development since um, currently we in this vicinity in this site the only I think the only sports facility present is YMCA, and yeah, it's for public use. Of course there's fee, but then it could not cater everyone in the vicinity because it's just a small building here um at the back of SM before from the current map. So I was thinking creating this sports complex that sorry it doesn't have to be just indoor courts, indoor gyms. This could be uh like a gateway for young Filipino athletes, given that there's they're really struggling right now with funds and everything, and also given that they're carrying the name of the country. So I was just thinking, what if we create this kind of space in the city, and of course the schools around it are really popular with um collegiate sports competitions such as UAAP and NCAA. So maybe we could also uh, facilitate something related to it in this space. Yeah. And then uh yeah, on the top part it's for more of rehabilitation and preservation of no, rehabilitation and research facility for Pasig River and Arroceros. So from my last week's um idea is the estero would be used for mobilization, transportation of goods and people. And um yeah, we just if it's clean already and there's no obstruction in the estero. So I was thinking maybe we could do that and also maintaining it for it to be used by generations and generations. So yeah, given also that this part is kind of like a like a capital city of Burnham. So yeah, I was just utilizing the space given that everything's here already and in his plan. And then yeah, and then going here is this was my plan for um Plaza Luneta last week, and uh yeah, I forgot to put arrows again, but like maybe I could just annotate. Um oh later. What I did here is since those flyovers are obstructing the views of the Met and the post office. So parang I just don't want them to be put below. Parang I don't think it could solve something, or like maybe a little. Pero I was thinking of making this big um like kind of like a roundabout. I don't know if that's the term, even it's rectangular. But then yeah, so given that cars will be coming here and they could go here if they want to um go to Divisoria, then Quiapo, go here. So it's like just utilizing the space over here without having without obstructing, of course, the view of the post office and the Met. And given that post office is highly parang it's kind of like above the ground, like from what I saw before. But then yeah. Yeah, so that's like the initial idea for this part. And then okay. Sorry, I don't know how to clear. I'll just erase it. All right. And then yeah, moving on would be commercial space. Oh wait, let me go to the civic buildings muna. So like for example, I just forgot to put tags on it. But for example, what we kind of envision here is, since this is um close to the main roads, the major roads, I mean, and the transportation or the LRT, putting a hospital here could be uh highly efficient, given that they would not go like walk far or even ride a public vehicle. For example, like if they came from LRT, so they could just um yeah go over there. And then yeah, although it's not as big because there's also a hospital in Intramuros beside at the back of PLM, and then of course PGH and um Pedro Hill. So this is more of like catering really just the people around it. And of course there's a lot of hospitals pa in España. So yeah, and then there's just an additional civic building, institutional building, since those buildings uh that were present in Aroseros Forest Park before, I mean like beside Aroseros Forest Park, um would be it's not there anymore. So yeah, giving them the space here, also without obstructing the view of the clock tower going to the vista of Pasig River. So yeah. Yeah, and then uh we also considered what you said like 2 weeks before, 2 weeks ago, um with the police and fire stations, really should I think really should be close with the residential spaces. So yeah, it's more of just inside this super blocks. And then yeah, what else? Yeah, okay. Going to the commercial spaces. One specific commercial spaces is this wet marketplace in this area. Given that there would be a kind of like a station for the Estero de San Miguel here, and then I think it would be more accessible also for the people going here. And given that there are residential spaces all over and not um kind of close to the mosque that would kind of disrespect it, but kind of like near here. And yeah, and then what we were thinking of this uh plan is to have that experience in Pasig River, as people would go by or would pass by using um boats, ships. um they would see this landmarks um from both um from both sides. And uh yeah, parang we also wanted to incorporate hotels, um first retail stores, malls, pero not as big that big as in Manila, that it would um get like one sixth of the plan already. So just wanted to really spread it out. And then yeah, as you could see, there's commercial spaces in this educational um buildings, this centers for learning and development. Um we place it there since this commercial spaces would cater specific stuff, like for example, um here in the research building for the like ecological research building. So maybe um this could be a market for produce, like or maybe a space teaching for urban gardening with plant nurseries. So yeah, and then this one kind of related with the sports facility, and then this one relating to the students here with their projects, I guess, kind of like that. And then of course, um, and then a lot more commercial space. Let me just erase that. Sorry. All right, and yeah, and then commercial offices is what we envisioned in this part of the city. Although we're still working on this part, sir. Uh, it's kind of we think it's kind of like messy right now, but then uh yeah, we're still working on it. And then yeah, connecting this to bridges, na we also wanted to have them like related to each other, like what you said, because before we have this circular circular thingy here and then another here, so there's no connection. So what we wanted is to have this experience, like for example, this space could be used for social gathering, or maybe for cultural ideas. We're still working on it. And like these people coming from their jobs could relax here and appreciate this whole view. So yeah, I think that's more of it. Mark, do you have anything to add?
No. Sir, you're on mute.
Are you sure, Mark? Wala ka na idadagdag?
So, no, sir.
Okay. This is a better development than the previous weeks. Of course, you cannot get it or be able to achieve it in one go, because there are still a lot of issues that I need to address. But take it as a learning experience. And I think I remember talking about when you're providing a zoning, try to answer where the back of the house is. That's why in normally when we zone it, we always do it double load. Can we zoom in to this one? I don't know if you can see my to this area?
Okay, sir.
Okay, kindly zoom in. All right. Layout wise, I think there's an identity already formed. There is already a sense of place already formed. Although I'm not sure how original the half circles are because we've seen it in Layug's and Idris' work. We'll go after this probably. So if I go back to this, like this is a single. This is the pedestrian lane, right? This is the pedestrian access, right?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, so this is the frontage, and this will be the back. So what happens to this building because this one because it's facing the back side of the back of the house of this color. That's why I think I remember advising everyone to keep it double loaded.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Ayun. So that way you can also maximize the saleability, the percentage of saleability. But as it is layout wise, I think it can still work. The other ideas are I'm okay with it because these are all good ideas. The early childhood something learning center is a good idea, and I think the pinaka best idea was the Arroceros Forest Park, the one with the circle. It's going to be the one with the red circle. You made it in institutional, right, Darren?
This one, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
But
What
yes,
is
sir.
it going to be again?
Yeah, kind of institutional, sir. Parang more of ecological research
Very
building.
good. Yeah, I love that part because there's a issue behind the Arceros Forest Park because I think it was initiated by the Winners Foundation. It's some sort of a group in Manila composed of concerned citizens. And then since it's an idle property, they planted plants. But there has always been a danger of that property uh, being occupied by a building because it's a private property. If I'm not mistaken, if not a private property, it's owned by the DepEd. So anytime now they can build a structure there. And since Manila is known for lacking of open spaces, when people were fighting for the forest park, and in just a matter of a couple of years, the trees were full grown already, and they planted some species that are special. So it's good that you are highlighting that and that institution is establishing that idea. Can we go to the post office building and maybe you guys need to rethink this before you submit this for final submission. Try to solve this properly.
All right, sir.
Because if you're going to, no, just keep it still. If you're going to the Visoria, Chinatown, this is Padre Burgos. This is how you go there, right? And then this is two-way. So if you're going the other direction, dito ka, right? Yes?
Yes, sir. Sorry,
Okay.
naglo-load lang sa akin.
All right. So if you're going to Quiapo, what happens is you go here, right? Tama ba? But actually, there's a way to go here also, the flyover. All right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now that it's flattened, try to imagine if you're going to Quiapo, you're sharing this road with the ones going to Chinatown. So this will be a bottleneck. So you turn right. This is just an ancillary or extra road, but it wasn't really designed for cars going to Quiapo because this is a hard 90-degree turn. Do you get it? So it's very hard to turn, but you can turn. Um, Now, the reason why they created the flyovers because they also want to cater to the ones going to Santa Cruz.
Yes, sir.
You get it? So what happens is this will be another bottleneck because everyone going to Quiapo, going to Chinatown, and going to Santa Cruz will have to go this way as well, right?
Yes, sir. Okay,
Ayun.
sir.
Ayun. Think
Noted.
about that and propose a different solution that still prioritizes the pedestrian without sacrificing the existing vehicular traffic.
Okay, sir.
Because we cannot, we need to balance both solutions, both demographics. Okay, and then I think I also explained before about the rotunda situation. Like if you are surrounded by cars, it doesn't feel like it's an open space, so less people would hang out. If you know that there are cars around you, it doesn't feel like it's meant for you. Just like when you go to Quezon City Memorial Circle, it's a humongous rotonda. It is the biggest rotonda I know. Or there are some in Europe, I think, or in Latin America. But subconsciously knowing that you're surrounded by cars, it still doesn't feel right. No, because in order for you to get to that park, you know that the rotonda's road is very big. So that's the sense of isolation that you feel when you are in Quezon Memorial Circle, and it's the same case when you are in a rotonda situation. So you have this design park, but it has the rotonda situation because it's surrounded by roads. Do you follow?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ayun. So think about that so that you can incorporate it in your final solution. Can we zoom out?
All right.
For the layout of the rest of the development, I'm good with it. Just make it double loaded so that you can maximize the saleable yield. And but I think it's very storied already. When I say storied, like there are different areas of interest when it comes to the layout. Okay. So
Okay, sir.
do you have any questions, guys?
Uh, Sir, with the Lawton, sir. Like as much as possible, do we not um obstruct? Like do we not build flyovers, or do we just create another solution? Like could be a flyover.
Actually, all of the above, because they have to remember that the exhibition is all about Burnham, and Burnham's all about vistas. And when they constructed that flyover, it disregarded that idea. And now the solution, now your challenge is to address the vehicular traffic, and then address the Burnham Vista, etc. So how do you design that area um, that dignify those important buildings, those heritage buildings, but without totally sacrificing vehicular traffic, and also prioritizing the pedestrian. So it's a bit of a challenge, honestly, but that is your job as a designer.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mark, you have any questions, Mark?
Yes, sir. I have one. Yung sa may golf course, we were thinking of having an outdoor concert area malapit sa may Metropolitan Theater
Okay,
just
do
to
that. Yeah, you can do that. I need to
okay.
see the design though. You're already working with those half circles. Maybe you can utilize that as an amphitheater type of thing. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
All right.
We were just worried baka may mga residential sa side.
No,
Is that an issue?
that's a that's a golf course. So there's nobody there.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Anything else? Okay na?
That's all for me.
Okay. Darren, anything else?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
No, I'm good, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay. Who's next again? Jacob, are you guys ready? And Adrius?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. And then after that, bilis Francis. Tapos na pala. Kasi wala sila Kevin. Okay.
Sir, kita po ba yung screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so quick recap lang of what we had from last week. So yung sa Ermita side and San Miguel side, we're pretty happy now with the layout. So for this week, we decided to tackle mainly yung cultural side because yung last week what we had was parang the most initial iteration of it. So what we had was something pretty commercialized. Sorry, something pretty commercialized. It only retained around 60% of the space of the park in front of it. And yeah, we realized then it wasn't ideal. So to begin with, we started with what you asked for last week, sir. I'm not sure if we did it correctly, but basically a zoning. So we have, oh, sorry. And so basically yung zoning namin is distributed into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. So the first one is the institutional complex, which includes all the civic buildings and educational institutions. The second one is a productive zone, which includes warehouses, offices, industrial spaces, but a place where all the work gets done. And then the third is like Ermita lifestyle block, where it's mostly commercial structures, but they act as a unifying feature for the adjacent zones because you have schools and then you have offices. So because most likely it's going to attract several different demographics in those two different zones, we wanted yung lifestyle space in between to be able to attract both demographics. So it's mostly commercial. And because it's somewhere here, which is far from most public transportation terminals located here, there's a degree of privacy and exclusivity for the people who stay within a certain radius from the lifestyle zone. So because we want students to form a parang sort of community, especially in this corner here in particular, because it's like a pocket space na. It's nasa corner siya ng bridge, so it's not directly accessible and visible from this highway. And because it's a pocket space, there's gonna be a tight level of community. So it's sort of similar to kunwari sa Taft. We have yung Taft drinking culture before Mayor Isko ordered its closure. So similar to something like that, it's gonna be a space that's gonna be for the surrounding or adjacent communities basically. And then the red is for yung Muslim community. So we decided to call it the Ummah na lang, which is basically the Arabic word for the community. So it's a space dedicated to the Muslim community. It includes like shop houses, a mosque, and then the halal market, which we introduced last week, which doubles as a feature to make the two mosques communicate with each other. So we wanted the two mosques to communicate because we wanted this Muslim community to be an extension of the Muslim town over here across the Estero. And then finally, the cultural complex here. So it's mostly um, like botanical gardens, parks, the transportation terminals, and then we're going to be introducing later on like underground developments. However, it's also in its initial stages, so yung form isn't final. But either way, um, the cultural complex is supposed to sort of unify the west and east side of the entire development, but we're gonna get to that later. So we updated our land use plan. So main things to point out is that we converted the space between the post office and the Quezon Bridge into a pocket commercial space. Like, Adrius, would you like to expound on that?
So in that space, we decided to add mini golf course since it would cater to people, given that not everyone likes to play golf. That's why we provided an alternative to, in order to give golf course a higher variety, especially when you go after the bridge and the Central Hall. And for the major update that we have made is focused on pedestrian footbridge. That's our main addition in this week. It runs along the existing overpass which surround the post office. The idea of this bridge is more of straddle the space and also provide an opening in the backside of unifying the post office with the Metropolitan letter. It's basically a vantage point. While acting as an entrance to underground network as it slopes downward. It can also house rainforest botanical garden, which we will be studying as of now, but we're trying to explore it. So for this footbridge, there are also contents that consist of ponds, which will be included in the sloping entrance to underground system. It also provides passive humidity control for tropical rainforest botanical garden. We also added a mini tropical rainforest botanical. Sorry. We also had three species there of different types. So along with that, Jacob, may add ka ba? Wala na.
Yeah, sorry. So balik ko lang din muna dito sa this pocket commercial space here. So we wanted to develop it further because existing and what we think that the location is actually nice enough for its use. So right now it's a multimodal transportation terminal. So we wanted to utilize that space the same way because it's pretty ideal. It's connected to the river and then it's accessible by like some highways. And then we're not sure how to connect this part here with the Lawton area, but we're part of our considerations na rin. So we might do like minimal rerouting in the area. But basically, yung zoning wise, our focus here is trying to bring in a sort of like yung the peer entertainment and amusement culture. So we wanted that in a multimodal transportation block so that it wouldn't look so desolate na puro tao nagaantayan lang or like just lines of jeeps or buses. We wanted people there to go and sort of have fun with yung commercial spaces in between or even amusement, which is why we decided to introduce the like the mini golf space. It's basically making use of yung space underneath the LRT because it kind of runs along this area here. So also visible from this, we also wanted to try to highlight the Quezon Bridge because it's a good-looking iron bridge, steel bridge, and the Quinta Market. Although it's no longer the authentic structure, we still think that the market itself is still of historical significance because the original one was built by Parsons, and although it was demolished now, it's still a talking point to a certain degree. So other changes were for our land use. As mentioned earlier, we removed although the map isn't updated, we removed yung commercial spaces in front of the Manila Post Office, and we converted it back into a public space or like a park. However, we did include this area here, which will be explained later further on when we go to like the underground network. But this space here is supposed to serve like a botanical garden, and then in the middle of a golf course, it's a commercial space, but it's part of the underground network. So before we get to that, here's an updated version of our circulation map. So it includes now a purple track. So recap lang, the yellow arrows here are supposed to be two-way roads. The blue arrows are supposed to be one-way roads. And then the dashed lines are pedestrian-only zones. So we included the purple track here to enclose this area here in a certain loop because you have two underground pedestrian walkways. However, they were completely disconnected and you'd have to walk around 200 meters out or 100 meters. I forgot in distance, but you'd have to walk this distance to get from one place to another. So we wanted to sort of enclose that loop. So yung Metropolitan Theater, we worked on trying to connect it to the Manila City Hall last week by converting these spaces here into like open parks, and then we converted these two streets here in pedestrian-only zones so that you'd have this unobstructed walkable distance here or stretch here. But yeah, we wanted to sort of connect this area here pa. So that's why we introduced the underground system. So everything purple here is pedestrian only and at the same time underground. And so basically, wait, sorry. So this is like a draft not really, the form isn't final at all, but just to give an idea of how we want our underground system to work. So color coding lang, because that's what we're going to be using as we go along the presentation. So the red spaces are above ground, so they're basically the entrances. The entire purple space here is underneath the Intramuros golf course. So it uses, wait, it uses the space under, it uses the golf course as like a green roof. We didn't want to touch the golf course as much because I tried doing some research and I don't really play golf, so correct me if I'm wrong na lang. Pero the Intramuros golf course is within regulation standards, I think, with like 18 holes.
18 hole
So yeah, we didn't
course.
want to touch the golf course too much. And then you have like in this section here 2 holes because based on yung amount of the green putting zones visible through Google Earth. And um, yeah, so we wanted the pedestrian walkway to traverse that entire area. And because you have 2 holes din naman, we got to divide it in a way by introducing this like skylight. So it creates like this fissure that allows natural light to go in during the day, and then during the night it sends out artificial light from underneath, so that it also creates a certain degree of lighting effect. So we wanted to introduce this effect here dito rin sa mga pocket parks later on. We'll get to that naman. So um, this entire section here, because it's a golf course naman, it will be elevated further. Hindi ano lang, we weren't able to model it properly lang this week because of time constraints, but it will be elevated a certain distance, and then the expansive development here, it's gonna be like half underground, or not really half underground, but slightly higher than the rest of the underground network here. So we want to convert that space into an underground commercial area because practically the surface is relatively light. You only have grass and its substrate layers, and we wanted the commercial spaces to be visible from the golf course, and at the same time, we wanted the golf course to serve as like partial amusement to the people who are walking underneath it, or yung people who are just um, enjoying the colder temperature from under the golf course. So um, here in this area naman, like we also tried considering the usability of these light wells as like a part of the golf course in terms of the course hazards. So in addition or in place of existing sand pits and ponds. So also, sir, I was hoping to ask din pala about the Bonifacio Shrine later. I think later na pala, sorry. So moving on to the yellow spaces, those are actually the walkways that are relatively deep underground because most of them are in the Lawton area where you have a lot of trees, and we wanted to provide enough space for the roots to grow in. So similar to the golf course, we can have parang yung basically light wells within the area. Wait, so because it's underneath some of the pocket island parks of this area here that isn't really being used. So we wanted it to have the similar feature of light walls so that at night it's going to be illuminated from below. So we're going to have uplights. Um, and yeah, it's going to make the pocket parks more vibrant, especially at night, because um, umabot sa point na tinitirhan na sila ng like informal settlers because of how unused it is. So it kind of turns these islands into attraction points, especially at night when people decide to stay there. So the blue space naman is a reservoir network lang with, it's composed of like 3 chambers. Um, it's basically connected to like the Lagos Nilad underpass. So because we wanted to make sure that the water going in the underground network is being used as well. So it's connected to each reservoir is like connected to each other, so that everything can be usable for like planting, for watering the grass in the golf course or watering the botanical garden. So everything is really initial, but this is the general idea of the underground development that we wish to attempt. So our goal for this week was hopefully lang to be able to communicate the idea of it, especially aspects such as utilization of light wells that would translate into uplighting at night. And eventually we do intend to include elements such as better utilization of varying elevations, like maybe this side here could be partially over the ground and then this side here is underground, so that you also have a view of this entire stretch of Manila. And finally, yung nasabi ni Adrius kanina na structure. So this is like the pinaka structure that we were able to add today. So it's basically a pedestrian footbridge that serves also as a like a pavilion. So it runs along the existing overpass as mentioned, and the idea is to create a vantage point wherein you could see the clock tower and post office at the same time. Because if you're here at this elevation, the overpasses kind of block the view. And if you're here in Taft Avenue, what you could see is like this rectangular top lang of the post office. So we wanted to create a vantage point for pedestrians to be able to see both. And at the same time, it kind of doubles as the main entrance towards the underground network. And we wanted to use this space here because it's going to be pretty shaded. We wanted it to also serve as the anchor point of our botanical gardens. So for future developments, we do intend to include like ponds here, so to introduce like humidity and climate control. Because under here we plan to have like a tropical rainforest botanical garden, because the conditions fit it better because it's kind of dim, and then it's gonna have a lot of humidity. And then above we're gonna have like tropical monsoon or tropical savanna botanical gardens. Basically, three different botanical gardens serving the three different climates. I mean the three of the several climates that you could find in our country. So yeah, I think that's what we have so far for this week, sir.
Okay. So I'm gonna throw the question I gave the other groups about the overall idea behind the project.
Okay.
Were you able to
Sir.
formulate somehow?
Yes, sir. Actually, while you were asking, I was sort of reflecting on what we've been trying to do here, and I think it's been centric on trying to build between buildings or trying to make them communicate with each other. Like for instance, this triangle here of buildings, like we wanted them to communicate, and then yung Manila City Hall, and then the mosque. So it's kind of centered around trying to make these specific landmarks communicate and trying to create a network of loops that enclose each other, so that even if the site itself is pretty segmented, like here you have the division of Taft Avenue and here you have the division of Pasig River, we kind of want to connect these sections together. However, execution-wise, I'm not too sure
Okay.
if,
I'm
yeah.
not gonna debate on that because it is agreeable. Maybe if I'm just going to challenge you as a designer, maybe my next question to it, what makes the other cities different from that idea? Because any city or any proposal in this studio can claim that they're creating communication between buildings. So that is a more of a rhetorical question because I don't know if you can answer that now. But it's something that you have to reflect on, and because it's that sort of for me, um, the argument that you need to strengthen what makes this communication between two buildings very unique and very strong in this proposal. Because, for example, if I'm going to talk about the active concept of Jao and Bea, that's very explicit in their proposal that they cannot necessarily say or imagine in your proposal, right? So, but communication of buildings, it's a little not naman general because I think you were successful in doing so. Uh, just like how I challenged the node idea of the previous group, Carlos and Andre, because we've seen cities that has stronger nodes. So how can you strengthen this idea? The active concept is very strong. I can feel it. I can sense in the proposal. So it's just a challenge that you and Idris need to um, percolate on. Okay. Do you get it? Do you follow?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. You were about to say something. I'm sorry.
No, no, sir.
Okay,
Gets fun.
but I super love the idea of the light coming from the ground. Can you show the image with the swoosh? I don't know if it's a swoosh or an S, a sweeping curve on the golf course that that one is a very strong idea that can be very iconic to the city hall. Like, how do you relate it with city hall? I think the shape of this, although I understand that this is somewhat functional despite the lack of plans of the underground at this point, which is understandable, but this is the best layout that you could think of for that swoosh. But try to imagine if you can still develop it in the next stage, next stage when you try to uh, relate this crevasse with the city hall, that it references that city hall, it references the city. And how do you connect this with the viewing deck that you introduce in front of the post office as well, so that if you have that connected ideas, I think this area is more strong, will be stronger, because you don't have one idea that has a very strong physicality design fighting the other one. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, sir.
can you imagine? I don't know if you've been to the quay side of Singapore, of the shop houses. Wherein, maybe you can Google it. Will Alsop. It was one of my early favorite architects. He designed like jellyfish, like some sort of I don't know if it's a cooling tower, but also shading device. And then you have the shop house, which is very strong already, so they complement each other. But try to imagine uh, a sort of, let's say, a Zaha Hadid building in the area. Definitely, because Villa Alsop is named, Zaha Hadid is named, and then you have the shop house, which is very strong in Singapore. Um, they're all very strong icons, but it will be very difficult to define what the area is, except that it's a quayside, the shop house is quayside, because of those very strong presence of uh, physicality. Do you get what I mean? But if you're able to connect and relate, this idea, even with the viewing deck, it can become a landmark on its own. Do you get it? That highlights the city hall. The city hall is, an idea in itself as well. Did you follow?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Do you have questions? Any questions? So keep in mind. Sorry, sorry. Go ahead. Do you have any questions, Jacob?
Sorry, sir. Project question lang. So, is it okay to parang move or reorient yung Bonifacio Shrine? Because we actually wanted to utilize this space as like an extension of the Mihan Garden,
Compared
pero we
to
weren't
the
sure.
compared to the
Ano, sir?
Metropolitan Theater, yes, that's more possible.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. Anything else?
I think none for now, ako, sir.
Okay.
Wala na po.
Adrius.
Sir, wala na po.
Okay. Just keep in mind, guys, you have the option not to meet me next week so that you can work on this already. All right. So don't get too OC anymore. While I love the fact that you guys are invested in this project and you want to be OC and finish it right, you need to also learn how to work with deadlines. Okay, so you just need to run away with what you have already. But I'm excuse me. But I think you can devote some time to think about how you can relate whatever you're doing for the ground, that pattern, and then with the viewing deck, etc. Okay,
Okay, sir.
because yeah, if you remember my comment earlier,
Like, we want to avoid that, this entire development was designed by different teams. In reality, yes, cities are designed by different teams. The architecture of the building is designed by different people also, but in this case, you have that luxury to design everything. So it doesn't make sense if the designs are appearing to be designed by different people. So this is your time to design and imagine uh, this to the fullest. Okay.
Okay, sir.
All right, sige. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, who wants to go first? Janelle, Kier, or Lance and Julian?
Sir.
Go ahead.
Okay, sure. Okay. Kita na po, sir.
Kita na.
Okay. So, from last week, sir, yung idea namin was to have a commercial area dun sa mounds dun sa taas ng highway namin. Pero the problem was, since hindi pa kami masyadong detail hindi kami sure how ipapakita yung buildings. So, yun yung mostly ginawa namin for this week. We tried to explore how to integrate a program dun sa mounts without being too distracting or too overpowering dun sa mga significant buildings. So, we had a general idea na magiging recessed yung buildings since elevated naman yung mounds namin. We had the opportunity dun sa ilalim to dun ilagay yung building. So to do that, we decided na i-rearrange muna namin highways sa ilalim. Since tunnels naman siya, we were able to compress it closer together. So as you can see here, yung highway dito, kinompress na lang namin siya sa middle nung area. So because of that, meron kaming space dito to create a building underneath the mound. So this is the exploded diagram. So here's the highways, then this is the buildings. Then yung entrance dun sa buildings na yun is located above the mound. So maliit lang siya na space na na-occupy. Then mas malaki yung footprint niya sa ilalim. So
okay, so yung idea for that is like Super Mario. So parang may tunnel na you're gonna get inside that area to access the commercial area, and then we also did it in a way na transparent yung sides with glass so that the vistas won't be covered. So next slide. So here's the section. So from any part you can still see the Met, you can still see the post office kasi hindi nako-cover ng structure. So we submerge the area so yung commercial area is beside the roads.
Hindi namin siya napakita masyado dito, pero yung road is located dito sa area na to. And naisip namin na pwede rin siyang maging babaan or parang terminal or parang bus stop. So instead na bababa yung mga tao sa labas, then pupunta sila sa commercial area. The commercial area itself can be the transportation node for the commuters. Then aakyat na lang sila or
half break na naman.
Na naman.
Here's another view ng yung mounds namin. Then dun sa area ng ferry, since yung buong area na to is mostly we're trying to make it focused on entertainment and tourism. Inisip namin kung paano magkakaroon ng way of having like some sort of viewing deck para makita yung buong area up until the City Hall. So, we inisip namin kung ano pwedeng gawin, and we decided to have a sort of tower which also doubles as a agricultural building. So, hindi pa namin siya masyado na-develop, pero the idea is that it's an agri-tourism space.
Okay.
Okay.
May add ka balance.
And this is just another view. So we place it there para kita yung major areas. So next slide. So this, ayan, kita yung City Hall and Met and the elevated parks.
And add ko rin pala na kaya kami nag-decide for an agricultural focused space because there's a market located here on this area. Then if you remember our circular park, there's an area where we're also planning to have an agricultural park. So yung mangyayari is basically that agricultural space over there will be more focused for the residents or the locals, while this area is more of a tourism focused. This is another part, another mound, mas maliit dun sa City Hall side, which connects the City Hall to the National Museum and the Intramuros Gate. Ito rin yung lagos nila
So for the buildings, the residential buildings and the building typology, we try to develop it with precedence. So we followed how Bahay Kubo is designed. So what we most noticed is laging may eaves or awning windows. So it works well with tropical areas for obvious reasons. So we're figuring out how we can implement it in a way na you're not just placing a technology onto the building, but it's the architecture itself. So we created the wall that's folding and so we created 3 iterations.
Parang design
The third, ayun sir?
Parang design ni Tracy.
Ay.
No, sige, go ahead.
And so we created awning. At the same time, it creates shade for the area below. And so that's why it's a bit long. Tapos we decided on the last iteration, which it folds upwards so that the users of the building can be also shaded by this awning. And the next one is the prototype. Pero this is not exactly a building. O nga, no? Pero the idea is from Jan Gill's lecture, which he said that people should see people. So how can we do that? So the same as how Andre used Bahay Kubo to elevate it. So medyo similar lang. So also similar to the pilotis of Le Corbusier. So we elevated it. So the area underneath can be al fresco or commercial area or even just residential if you can close it. So in that way you can see through people and see across the street kasi it's totally open. And then we applied the folding awning window here. para lang makita yung prototype. So next is we applied it to the riverside. So basically, we placed it on the outer perimeter of the residential area for now. The reason we placed it there is because there's more space building to building. If we put it inside, it wouldn't be enough since tatama sa kabilang buildings. And also, the buildings itself are creating the shade already. So the buildings are shading the other buildings. So that's why it's only on the outer perimeter walls. And yeah, and they can fold it in any way they want, depending on how they want it. So kung umuulan, yun, pwede din ganun. Ano ba kaya? Do you have anything to add, Julian?
Wala. Yun na yun actually.
And so here we get di lang masyado naging halata yung brush, but then we try to show the areas where we can apply that design in this part and the other side of the building, the side, the slim areas. So, and that's basically it for now. We're still developing the others.
Okay. Minus the proposal for the typology, what do you think is the overall concept?
Actually, sir, we were reflecting din na nung tinanong nyo yun kanina. Kasi what happened was we weren't really thinking about a specific concept, but it was more like how Bea and Zhao did it, which is intuitive na.
Yeah, ano yung what they think is surfacing?
Ang
hina naman.
Wait lang.
I think, sir, the focus sa design namin was about the activities that were relevant to different areas of the site.
Remember what I said earlier, the concepts, they don't need to take just a single form. It can be about activities, it can be about a morphology, it can be about trying out a morphology or trying out something else, etc. So, okay, ano?
Yung feel ko kasi na feature ng ng project namin is yung radial park, which features a lot of different kinds of parks, which also creates different kinds of environment and feel experience. So, ang nangyayari is parang amusement park siya na kunwari nandito ka sa area na to, feels like Harry Potter. Amusement park in a sense na there's different experiences. Nagtatago si Harry Potter din eh. Pero yun, yung experience na nag-iiba-iba. Pero
sige, pagkatawanan niyo yan, pero hindi yun nababasa ko.
Sir, ano yung nababasa niya, sir?
Sa akin na lang yun. Baka wala namang right and wrong eh. You just need to strengthen it if that's what you think is strong in this proposal. I'll just probably reveal it in the end.
Yeah. And I think there's trends going around this project. So one of it is the elevated park. So may trend na nagiging ganun, elevated yung parks above busy areas.
Dominating idea happening in this, the most dominant. If you're going to create percentage of the things that you've been doing, Kilebe was really strong, the active spaces. No, in your case, how many percent is this? How many percent is this? And then when you look at it from afar, how many percent is this? So it's very easy to distinguish. So anyway, it's not really a problem. It's not really a cause for concern. It's just something that you have to develop. And yeah, it's a good start for the typology. If I'm going to comment, it's an initial development, uh, but normally when you create a master plan, you create suggestions. Although in design 6, we're going to be very specific with the components and with the elements. And normally when you have a city like this, since you have a code or a master plan already, we cannot really dictate how each building will be like totally. Do you get it? So what you can do is probably that's your recommendation, but and then you develop it in design 6, probably one idea of that for the periphery. Um, the periphery of that block, di ba yun intentional just for the periphery? And
Yes, sir.
and then uh, and then you create an assumption when you create the rendering, without creating the individual plans of each building, but create variations of the potential and the possible looks, the different variations, like different variants. I don't know if you saw Loki, may mga variants. So ano yung different variants nun? So along that periphery. Do you follow?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Huh? What?
Yes, sir. We follow.
Okay, so ayun, and then you were talking about agricultural something, how does a building, each of these typology create that action, etc. Like that. So it will be an exciting development, if ever. So work on this already, and actually I love the idea. I hope we can finish this because it's really a very strong imagery of this place because it totally alters this area. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anything else? Anything else?
Wala na po, sir.
So I reckon that somebody detailed the main buildings.
What do you mean main building, sir?
Sorry, the notable buildings like the post office, city hall.
Actually, sir, pinag-usapan na nila Tracy din eh. Namin lahat kami.
Yeah, because I saw
Actually,
the same detail with Carlos. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Actually, sir, we're meeting actually as a group. I mean, the entire class. Na parang we're making our own building catalog para less hassle for everyone to do the same thing again and
Pointless
again.
naman eh. Yeah, tsaka if you have to recreate it individually. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know about the other group, the backstabbing GC. Joke lang.
Puro puri ka lang kaya dun, sir.
Ha?
Puro praise lang yung mga sinasabi namin about you there.
Puro puro kagat ako ng dila every time na nasa
At pag graduate namin, sir, add ka namin sa group chat na.
Sige, let's go to the next one, to the last one. Aga natin yan.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Nawala lang kami ang aga na tapos. Bakit ganun? Bakit ganun?
2 hours kayo mag-present eh.
Actually, sir, siguro magko-consult na lang kami.
Sige lang, sige lang.
Magme-message na lang kami.
Isang araw yun, sir.
Care, Janil, nasang restaurant ba kayo?
We're home, sir.
Okay.
Not this week.
Uy, ingat sa Delta, nakakapraning na.
Is it seen, sir?
Yeah, it's visible. I'm just curious, what's the inspiration behind the color scheme? Lalang. Okay.
Well, at first we were getting it from like vintage, vintage like Filipino Manila postcards.
Actually, the map. Yeah. Now I recognize it.
Yeah, sir. Since from the first week.
The map, yes. The map, yes. But when I'm looking at the 3D, it's very hard for me to reference it. But now that you mentioned postcard, I think I've seen images of old Manila with this palette, but I can't recall which one. Yeah. So sorry. Go ahead.
So this week we tried to complete all of our ideas. So I'll just talk more about our empty areas last week. So the white area, we decided to incorporate the golden mosque on the other side by creating a small open plaza for um, prayer rituals and other festivities of Muslim culture. So we integrated facing the idea of facing the Mecca into the layout. Other than this, we decided to allocate this area as a zone where the community values more spiritual well-being. So that includes having the more health facilities and um, halal research facility since it is nearby our agriculture area. And then we also incorporated for our religious area where we have our own mosque, we decided to um, connect it to our water strip by creating a sort of mall that diverges to um, not social housing, just housing in general for that particular community. And beside the housing on the right side, we incorporated more civic and barangay structures. And then we also redeveloped our agriculture activity in order to make it more organic and dynamic by making subtle terraces and making it more recreational in a sense where the community could go uh, to visit restaurants and markets, and the patches that were left open will be allocated for crop cultivation. But other than that, the other larger structures are allocated for agriculture schools and conservatories or greenhouses. Um, and then the bridge we have in between is both a pedestrian and bicycle accessible bridge, and we plan to have the bridge diverge outwards and onto the different terrace levels in order for easier access and circulation within that area. That's it for this page. Here, you want to go?
Okay, yeah. So for this side, we still maintained our previous design of the cultural area here, with it opening up between the Metropolitan and the City Hall. So this area will still be this area will still be used for different cultural and art activities. So that includes the
art schools and workshops.
There, art schools and workshops here. And then so these two and this one will be the terminals, since our only access road on the street level will be the one in between the city hall and our developed area. Since like our previous proposal where we will be moving the current streets to an underpass, while this area will form a sort of bridge that connects our terraced intramuros area to the cultural area. So like we previously stated, this area will be shop houses and riverfront restaurants and commercial areas, while a more dense residential area with catered more towards students and um, government workers. And then this central area here was our previously the one we previously explained of the children's area. So it will be a mix of open courts like for basketball, volleyball, catered towards children's development. Okay, I think that's all for this slide.
Laki naman ng barangay services, no? All of it are barangay services?
This one, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, because we wanted to, like we previously stated, we'll be moving some of the barangay services out of the Manila City Hall. And then aside from it being barangay services, we also included our co-working spaces in that area.
Because imagine the size of this Manila City Hall, and then you even have a barangay services on the other side. So
Wait, sorry. I think the our colors were just similar. It just ended up looking similar. But the one on the opposite end with the in the mosque area, those are local barangay services for the community, while the ones here in the city hall are directed for more uh co-working spaces in a sense, and rentable office spaces, and the larger block that in that area is for government buildings and spaces that we'd like to extract from the city hall and
how
make it
many
into more.
how many stories are these blocks? Are these massing these buildings?
Our current is 2 stories, between 2 to 3, sir.
Okay. Sige, continue. I'm sorry.
Maybe you can go to the next slide here. So this one's just a top view of our plan so far. We can go to the next one to explain the Intramura side.
This one.
Yeah. Okay, so for this one, we did explain last week of our idea of sloping the intramuros downwards in inspired by the system of like step wells and creating a walkway on top, as well as syncing the vehicular network. Yeah, so as for our model, here I identified that within this walkway, we're going to be having like a merge of like landscaping and pedestrian circulation, as well as integrating cultural or artisanal market spaces. We did have a plan to incorporate that before, so we decided to move that to this area since it's connected to our cultural area by the Met and the Intermuras, which is another cultural attraction. So it sort of serves as a transition. And in order to make use of the sloping of the Intermuras greens, we were thinking about introducing more tourist-centric shops and activities and other attractions that would also relate to Intramuros. And we incorporated sort of like an open river or canal at the bottom that's more controlled, not necessarily from connected to the Pasig River, but uh, it's mitigated or controlled because it will we have ideas on making this into more like a means for renewable energy for the city, which we will connect to our overarching concept that we'll be explaining in a bit. But other than that, this proposed canal or river is supposed to be more actively flowing in order to address that um, producing energy and just making it more dynamic, even if it's sunken. And oh yeah, and this the reason for having this bridge, sorry, the bridge is also to give the pedestrians means of having views towards the post office, Intramuros, the museum, and the city hall all in one to open up the views as compared to if it was all flattened. Here, do you have anything else to add to this one?
So, like Janelle said, we wanted to possibly introduce a system sort of like a water funnel where the water would funnel from the river and come out in the estero here, which would allow it to flow and serve as a possible energy source to that would sort of that is linked to our overall like our overarching ideas. Yeah. Next slide. So in general, we think that our overarching idea is we're creating a hydro social healthy city.
Yeah,
So yeah,
before we did we showed this diagram at the start before we planned everything, but now that we developed our main urban ideas, we noticed that everything was more water centric. So we planned, what if we create a more healthy city that was founded on um, providing access to multiple ways of like integrating water to the urban environment. So whether that be like environmentally, spiritually, socially, so on and so forth. And then also the goal is to strengthen like the community members' engagement and connection to the waterscapes in order to achieve this healthy city that we're that um we're trying to achieve. Also, like I think this is a good response also to Burnham's principle of like valuing and like increasing sensibility to like rivers and bays. So we sort of took that principle and just made it a concept as a whole and integrated sort of by the outer banks of the area.
That's all, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, it's good that you already have a concept in mind already.
I'm just a little iffy about the underground water system because he said it's going, or based on the label, it says that it's going to be a working river system, but you have to deal with the level of the water level of the Pasig River. So this will be definitely way lower than the actual water height along the river, right?
Yes, sir.
So I don't know how this will work or be free flowing, especially if it's going to
Sir,
be really lower.
we have, wait, I'll show. Sir, so when we were thinking of the idea, we sort of took inspiration from something similar to this. So the way it works is this, the water comes from a higher level and then it goes down and then ends up on a lower level. So the same way with ours, the inlet will be from the higher level of the river, and then the release point is lower towards, which is our sunken area.
Where does it go afterwards?
So, sir, our original idea was to have it flow around the whole Intramuros already. So it arcs, like it will wrap around the wall.
Like
Similar,
the moat.
yeah, sir, similar. But then
But this
we
time it's
wanted
going
to
to be free
address,
flowing. It's going to be flowing.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, that's good. All right. Uh, yeah. So because I see two very strong concepts, which are the hydro thing, which is very Burnham, and if you develop this in design six, you can work on that, or you can do the agricultural thing that you already introduced. So especially when I saw the terracing thing, imagine if you have like the rice terraces, happening around there. Even architecture is somewhat like that. So it's really up to you guys. So the water thing is also good because it's something that has not been done before, and maybe you can also address resiliency if I'm not sure how vulnerable the place is when it comes to flooding. So I don't know if it's something that will be a concern later on. Can we turn on again the slides?
Okay, sir.
Um, just to make sure that I was able to cover everything. Um, yeah. Actually, this goes for everyone because I'm happy that somehow sila Jacob and sila Lance was able to utilize this. It's something that is always ignored. I'm not sure if insular ice plant used to be here or here, but it is still a waterfront. So it's a it's a good real estate. So I don't know if it's too late for you to think about something nice about this area. So it's really up to you. Um, what else? And then I would probably make this a little denser to create that critical mass. I mean, what's the green areas uh, behind it?
Sir, so we're planning on mixing it between open areas and places for growth of crops.
Okay. Um, well, and anyway, I think it can be addressed in a typology level, wherein the reality is we are in a urban setting. Like, how do you create that concept in an urban setting by using architecture? Um,
Okay.
and then that's the reality of it. And if you apply the agricultural idea, I would imagine down the road, probably all of the roofing will be green. I don't know yet because it's creating more arable land. The terracing can happen because the soil is poisoned and probably put more soil. I don't know. Just thinking out loud. Um, so yeah, I mean, just finish this right. I actually like this pala. This area. I can imagine this to be just an open area. I don't know what times they pray, but if it's not going to be too sunny, I I saw some spaces in the Middle East where it's all marble, even if it's not covered. I know it's hot there, but they might be praying there, so it's going to be a very ethereal place. But if not, this can be an arcaded thing, and then they pray on the sides at night during daytime. Also keep in mind the double loading part because it's a question mark how people will be walking around these blocks because the back of the house thing issue you need to address as well. All right, but at least it's already almost complete. Just again address the issue about maybe you can mix the commercial and residential with the institutional. I don't know. Maybe the commercial is more than the residential because I don't think you have that fabric yet to create a population, enough population for this. Try to imagine our current developments. We have a lot of condominium buildings in Eastwood, in BGC, McKinley, etc., to create that population so that they can sustain the commercial activity, the small commercial activity in the area. So while this is a mixed-use development, keep in mind that you need to create that stimulus of human activity. All right? Sige.
Okay, sir.
Anything else?
Mm,
Also, be mindful of the railing, like what my issues with just nitpicking with the elevated thingy of the group of Bea and Jao. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Sige. Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir.
So, everyone, do you have
Okay.
any questions?